daddy with Panther claws in his chest. You ain't the son of a king, you a son of a murderer.
Hey, Auntie.
Why so serious?
And we come here not as conquerors, but as liberators to return control of this city to the people.
With great power comes great responsibility.
They said they fired.
They fired this nigga. They fired this nigga.
Get out of that.
This nigga caught the hammer. I don't think you understand. Like they threw all that Asgardian ore on his head, man. That nigga was gone. He was gone forever, man.
Hey, yo, Mo, you want to give any credit to Batista? That nigga was bitching on Twitter.
You know who Batista is? Batista's that white man on the internet that get a little too mad for the black friend. That's what happened. That's what
Latino. What are you talking about?
No, I'm saying I'm comparing.
Analogy, man.
Here's an analogy. I'm saying that man had to put his heart and soul on this. This man practically said movies are canceled until this man gets rehired. He said movies are over. Nobody's ever filming anything ever.
I think them saying that they fired him was just a publicity stunt. Because it says here that Chairman Alan Horn was in talks with him.
They failed.
They were in talks with him for a while. So they never stopped dialogue.
Bush, DC hired him. Like Warner Brothers hired him to do that Suicide Squad sequel, and he's still doing it. Meaning he had an exclusive contract with Marvel. Meaning not only is he doing the movie he was supposed to originally do, he left for so long that he had to get a job on the other side, and he's still doing that film. He's doing both movies.
I know that. I'm saying that they were still in talks, so they never stopped having dialogue with this nigga. So
they were in talks of using his script. They were having conversations about he already wrote. He finished the script.
I seriously doubt that they were just talking about the fucking script. If they reinstated him now, I'm sure they were having long conversations about having him back.
I'll tell you what happened. I think
Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and they were going to replace him with Vin Diesel as fucking.
What?
Please don't.
What you talking about?
They're saying that sounds like a suspicion, dog. Where are your sources at?
Nah, it's facts. Anyway, let's go back to James Gunn. let's talk about how amazing this is. You know, this is amazing. These niggas fucked all the way up. They messed up. They messed up so bad. They messed up so bad that the niggas are like
did they?
Me. You know what I'm saying? Like me, the person that's supposed to be on the side of, oh no, he's doing crazy shit to children. They fucked up. They messed up. They were wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like people that should have been.
I don't think that they were wrong in like letting him go. They don't want to be associated with a nigga that makes pedo jokes, dog.
That shit was
so.
No, Bush. No, Bush. No, nigga. Here's when logic gets in the way of any of that shit. Let's think about this for 1 second.
Let's think about it. Okay, go ahead.
The way we're gonna break this down is the tweets were out there available into the knowledge of Disney before they hired him for the first movie. So when he's finished the script for the third movie in this franchise, why are you gonna fire him? Because literally the type of person that you don't want to associate with, an alt-right person, a person that's literally been convicted for sexual assault, is trying to reveal some stuff to the public eye. Think about that.
Look, it is all about that public knowledge that everybody knows. Like, I'm sure they already knew the tweets existed.
Man, I've been saying that for how many podcasts? I've been saying that for how many? I know the issue isn't doing the things you do. The issue is getting caught for them. But the thing is that he got caught for them years ago, and he apologized for them, and Disney knew that he apologized for this shit, and they hired him anyway. It's not even like they're finding new information. It's just this guy brought up old information, and people care now, and we're gonna fire him from the third job he's getting at the studio.
That's not the point. The point is that it's not that when they knew, or it's when everybody knew, because nobody else knew about these tweets.
Why would he have to publicly apologize if people weren't complaining back then? I'm
not saying that is right or wrong. I'm saying that's how the shit works, and that's why they fired him.
But that's what I'm saying. I get it. I understand. Listen.
We understand why they fired him, but
I'm not following what your argument is, bro.
My argument is that they don't want companies now. These are companies. These are entities. They don't want to be associated with somebody that makes those type of jokes. And they don't want. I mean, they don't want the backlash of the full weight of the media coming down on them. If they kept him on.
They were getting it when they were firing him because they apologized.
Whatever they were so afraid of when they fired him, they're going to deal with now.
Disney's moral character supersedes their profit margin?
It ain't about, look, it's all about profit. They fired him because they wanted to keep that shit secure. And that
but there was also
backlash. Him is what put Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in jeopardy, which would have cost them
But that
millions.
100%.
That same backlash
you know the
for the pedo
part?
jokes, and the same backlash you're talking about for the pedo jokes, there was backlash for firing him because he already apologized and he already talked about it multiple times. So is there like a? Go ahead.
I feel like they got what's the thing? They were power crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because think about this for a second, right? Think about this situation, right? They undervalued how important James Gunn was a foundation to this entire fucking universe. The entire space side of the Marvel universe, the entire basis and official film introduction of Thanos as a character, all happened in this dude's movie.
Okay.
They all happened in this movie.
And James Gunn.
I don't look. James Gunn is a solid director. He's a great director. I don't think he being gone will affect that universe. It's already been established now.
It would affect that.
Anytime a movie that is average as fuck, like Captain Marvel, can make $500 million over the weekend, they have got the formula down. They don't need this nigga. He's good. It's good to have him, but they don't need him.
And the directional, like the flow of a movie, is affected by the director. I forgot what DC movie it was where it replaced the director halfway through, and the movie was
the Suicide Squad.
I don't know. It was either Justice League or Suicide Squad, and the movie was literally different halfway through because of the directional choices.
That has nothing to do with this case right here, right? Because
yes, it does.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Yes, it does.
It does. They didn't start filming shit yet, man. Like they got a script,
but they continue to use the script. But here's the thing. Here's what Marvel does, right? And this is not even, you don't even need to use anybody else as an example. Let's use the actual studio at hand, right? Edgar Wright had been working on an Ant-Man movie since before Iron Man 1 came. This man has probably the most distinct style of all of these, like, what's it called, auteur directors. People can understand, people can recognize his way he edits, the way he frames a shot, the way he coordinates sound in like 5 seconds. And what ended up happening is that there's such a distinct difference from when a scene shows up that he obviously directed to just a regular Marvel scene directed by the replacement director they had. Okay. So the thing is just because they're moving forward with James Gunn's script doesn't mean they would have made a movie close to as good as what James Gunn was doing. Because what they're trying to do is
I'm gonna respond directly to what he just said. That doesn't matter.
Finish though. You know what I'm saying? No, but let me finish though. I was gonna say is like people are responsive to that stuff now. You know what I'm saying? Like Marvel has trained their audience to consume media in a different way from like regular movies, but people are more critical in a lot of ways. People do think about this stuff because internet discussion has honestly changed everything. You think people cared about like Rotten Tomato scores back in the day or review scores? People like if you watched Roger and Ebert one time, you were a hardcore film critic in terms of your friends. Like,
look,
go ahead.
All I was saying is that he didn't direct any fucking footage yet of this film. So you comparing it to like a movie that Edgar Wright did, and he kind of directed half of it. That it's not comparable because he didn't touch this film. It's just the script
I'm not saying
they
that.
have.
And what I'm saying is that Edgar Wright as a director and what he values as a director and filmmaker was built into the fiber of what this character was supposed to be. You see what I'm saying? In the same way that James Gunn he isn't part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. He is the Guardians of the Galaxy. The way he reimagined these characters, the comic books changed to fit his movies. The comic books weren't writing about characters like this. He had to reimagine them from the ground up.
I'm not even talking about the quality of the director and if having him would make the film better overall. I don't care about that.
No, I'm saying it would have felt like a hollow shell of what it originally was.
You can't say that.
I rebuttal
you based on other movies that have had that happen to them.
No, it's not because it depends on who they get.
A prime example of a bad director. Then Taika Waititi came in. I'm assuming that he filmed Ragnarok, right? And the movie was completely different. Style and tone.
And the same. And here's the thing. A lot of people.
The opposite would be of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, directed by James Gunn. The third Guardians of the Galaxy movie would be ass if he didn't direct it.
A lot of people didn't like the fucking second movie and thought that the first movie was way better. A lot of people didn't like the villain in the first movie. A lot of people don't see him as this great director that you niggas see him as. Like, a lot of people don't really fuck with the Guardians to begin with. So a lot of people will be saying, hey, maybe getting a new director in here will refresh the shit. The same that Taika Waititi refreshed Thor.
Like the movie, right? You're saying they don't like the movie, and that's a good
I'm saying you're placing way more importance on James Gunn than I think the studio is.
Stylistic choices,
which is why they reinstated him. They messed up and didn't value him as much as we do. That's the reason they had to rehire that nigga.
Guardians of the Galaxy like James Gunn,
and the rebuttal, that money point with the Captain Marvel making that amount of money from the first week. First of all, that was before we even saw the film. The hype and the controversy around it would be the explanation for the push of that money as well. Or you can say that can be the explanation for that push as well. Okay. But Marvel itself wouldn't have gotten to this point where they're just getting opening sales that are like blowing out the water if they just got shitty ass movies. The director is obviously an important and integral part of continuing trend. If I watch a Marvel movie, it's going to be quality.
Look,
hold on, I'm not done. I got one more point. And as well as James Gunn being a part of the brand of the Guardians of the Galaxy, that's him. That's the brand of Guardians of the Galaxy is attached to James Gunn. So if you take that off and you enter some other director into it, that definitely will affect not only the story, but the sales as well, because the people who believe that the movie... You want to bet?
No, it won't affect the sales. No, it won't.
That won't affect the sales? That won't affect the sales at all?
It won't at all. It won't.
It won't at all. You don't think that people don't... You don't think that people... So people that go to movies for like certain stars, like Will Smith or something like that, or XYZ, if that person was not in that film, you think that the same numbers will be happening?
I don't think James Gunn is that caliber of a director. I don't think he's seen as that type of director before. Like he's not seen as like a Nolan or somebody like a Spielberg or somebody like that.
Okay, and I understand that.
So I don't think.
But when attached to Guardians of the Galaxy, I believe that he's in that field for fans.
I can break down the whole Spielberg thing. The thing is that the big difference between the directors that Marvel's hiring these days versus what James Gunn was. James Gunn was lightning in a bowl. You know what I mean? Like the dude did those like fucking Troika movies, like those real schlocky, what's it called, edgy movies that like people made fun of and like got drunk and watched one night and never revisited ever again. He made real schlocky movies before the Marvel stuff. So the thing is, the difference between James Gunn is that he made his bones at Marvel Studios. That's why they don't see him as like a Steven Spielberg or even a Ryan Coogler or a Taika Waititi. Because his indie scene movies were pretty much made with the purpose of being kind of like jokey gob.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
You know he went because he worked for Troma. Troma make the shittiest film. Like you knew he wasn't really up there. Like I mean, I'm sure he made
that's not the point though. My point is that's why people won't give him his credit. The reason people won't give him his credit is because his bones were made in the what's it called, Troma, made in the sort of Troma stuff. Like, but Guardians was his first big shit. You know what I'm saying? And like the thing is that wasn't an accident. That wasn't like, oh look, if anything, that was the moment everybody was wrong. You made a mistake, not like thinking this director didn't have that in him. And Guardians is an example of that. Not only is that one of the best Marvel movies, period, right? I would say that's probably one of the best sci-fi movies of the modern time. It's very, very good. I really do think that. It's very, very, very good.
Okay, so the only couple good movies I see on his before the Guardian shit was Super, which was like a an independent superhero thing.
Yeah.
It was like Kick-Ass, really.
Did he do Stardust? Is that him as well? Did he do Stardust, or am I messing up?
Let me see. Let me look at his director. Stardust. No, I don't see Stardust here.
Okay, that's Matthew Vaughn. No, never mind.
Let's see.
But
he did Movie 43, which is panned as one of the worst fucking.
That was one of the worst movies. Yeah, that was pretty bad.
But that's kind of my whole thing, though. It's like, why wouldn't you guys have like this man? Like, if anything, it proved his salt as a director. Like, the movie was good because of him. He both wrote and directed the movie. Like I feel like the best directors do that shit. Ryan Coogler is the reason Black Panther is as fire as it is. He brought all of his people he worked with, Creed on Fruitvale Station with, to Marvel to make that movie as good as it was. He co-wrote the script. He filmed every shot or whatever. Like, that guy was into that process.
Yeah, but
same thing with Taika Waititi. Even though Taika Waititi doesn't get writing credit for Thor Ragnarok, he changed complete lines, and the entire sense of humor of that movie is his. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, but you mentioned a couple of Marvel films, and that's how they operate. They when they bring directors in, fairly new directors, they give them somewhat control over who they hire and stuff like that.
No. They do to a degree. Here's the thing with
that's what I'm saying. To a degree,
it's way more controlled than that.
Here's what happens. Here's what I've learned about Marvel, right? Especially with Phase 3, right? Phase 3 is like, I guess it's everything from, is it Civil War? Like after Civil War, or like beginning from Civil War, or whatever. Like around that time to now is all Phase 3. The thing I've been realizing slowly is, if you have a strong directorial voice, if they hire you because you make a particular type of film and they want to attach you to one of their characters, you will be given more freedom and more control over the project you're working. When they hired Ryan Coogler, they knew they wanted a Ryan Coogler movie, but they wanted it to be about Black Panther. When they got Taika Waititi, they wanted that for Taika Waititi. I don't think that applied to the first two phases. I think at Marvel, it was more important for you to be a director that would listen to what they wanted you to make than it was for you to have a strong directorial voice. They didn't want art films. They didn't want somebody that would bring a certain flavor to what they were making. They wanted somebody to do the job and competently. That's all it was. So for James Gunn in, like, what was it, Phase 2, to be able to like make something so distinctly his, which what I'm assuming is like less control than like Phase 3 directors, right, is really impressive. That man put all of who he is into that film.
Y'all sucking this motherfucker off throughout this whole argument. I'm not even saying y'all are making it seem like Disney made a grave mistake into letting.
I think they did.
Why would they rehire? Here's my question, Bush. Here's my question. If they didn't make a grave mistake, why would they rehire him, Bush? Answer my question.
One time, and two, he was going to direct a film for the competitor. Like, come on,
he doesn't have time. He doesn't have time.
I'm talking about their time. They're putting their universe. Like, this fucks up their timeline of when they drop movies by Guardians not having a director. So I feel
they
like
don't even have to do another Guardians movie. If we're being real frank, they didn't even need to do another one. They didn't need to.
They honestly not.
No, come on. I what? I'm hating.
You caping.
How caping for who? Disney? I'm saying. All I said from the jump was I understood why they let him go because they didn't want the bad publicity, and I understand why they hiring him back now because the shit sort of died down, and people are talking about other pedos. People talking about Michael Jackson and shit like that now. R. Kelly.
No, I agree with Bush to some degree. I do agree with him. I'll tell you why I do agree with Bush says, because it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, I disagree with you. I disagree with everything that you have to say. The thing I agree with Bush is that I do think that this announcement is well timed. I think it's supposed to surround this moment in the culture where people are fuck the pedos, fuck the pedophiles, blah, blah, blah. And I think, honestly, the culture had already accepted, I mean the culture at large, not just, black culture, had accepted that, like, it's unfair to put James Gunn in the same pit as like Michael Jackson or an R. Kelly.
Take that back.
Michael Jackson ain't got no evidence.
Take that back.
That boy.
I know I mentioned Michael as a pedo, but I didn't mean.
I don't care. I'm talking about the fact that there's a product being pushed by HBO that is predicated on this guy being a pedophile. So it doesn't matter whether he did it or not. That's the culture at large.
But Mo, I don't know. You said you agreed with him on the front that it was like perfect timing, but
I'm saying publicity has a lot to do with it. I'm saying like Disney has a PR team, and PR teams are hired to test the climate and thinking of the most opportune moment to release information. You know what I'm saying?
But I would think that if the outrage is around pedophiles and pedophilia, wouldn't something like James Gunn being having these tweets in the past be something that they wouldn't want something to be announced around this time?
I thought that too.
Are we just going to ignore the targeting James Gunn at all? That's the only reason why.
That shit doesn't matter. They're comparable to anybody that calls out like somebody for some shit they say in the past.
No, I disagree. I think, like, first of all, like, definitely
the person that brings attention to it doesn't matter in this situation. Yeah, y'all everybody here hates the alt-right, but it doesn't matter in this situation at all.
It isn't even just about him being a member of the alt-right. It's also him being arrested for sexual assault and
hold on. Two of y'all talking at the same time.
And I'm telling you, none of that shit matters because people only care about James Gunn. They don't care about the other dude. So what? So what that he called, brought attention to this situation. I mean, James Gunn did have them tweets up, so like it doesn't take away from that.
Bush. So you don't see any type of issue in there already being a public outrage before this man was hired, right? Them asking him to issue. Yes.
Buzz, absolutely outrage over this. And that's what. Hold up. Off of that point of Mo saying that there would be an outrage, if it was just some rinky-dinky director that they just fired had to like say take James Gunn out of it. Say it was a different director that did the same.
If you're saying
hold on. Let me finish. If say we have a rinky-dink director that did the same exact thing and they fired him, they would understand. It's perfectly fine. But I'm saying when in regards of James Gunn in itself, because he's such a pivotal person in this process, and because he's such and he apologized for it as well. I think that there is a validity to him being a part of the process, and there is a validity of him adding to the marketability of the actual film itself.
If there was really this big of an outrage, the same amount of outrage that it was when the alt-right people, journalists first revealed this shit, why did Disney hire him in the first place? I don't think there was this. I don't think the outrage was as big as it was later on.
Disney does not scrub through your records extensively like we're all thinking they do. They don't go for tweets 10, 15 years ago.
I think they do, though, Marcel.
I think they do.
Because not Marcel. Because Disney, bro, remember, Disney is a worldwide. This is a superpower. This is a superpower in entertainment.
That they don't do background checks on their employees. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is they don't specifically look for controversial topics such as this. Of course, they'll look into like their fucking like arrest record or something like that if they get arrested for any type of like stupid shit. But they're not gonna go scrub Twitter for fucking pedophilia. Like they're not gonna specifically do that.
And who pointed out this before the first time? Who pointed it out? Because it wasn't the same journalist, I don't think, was it? You saying that was outraged before you got the director gig for Guardians? Hello?
You said what?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, repeat that.
I mean, didn't you say that there was outrage before he got the director's gig? Who brought this to their attention first?
So there was outrage in the sexual assault community, right? How a lot of Republicans were being called out for sexual assault comments. So what the alt-right is going to do, they're going to start targeting like left-leaning Democratic figures.
I mean, I'm talking about. Did this happen the first time? Are you still talking about the first?
Yeah, well, it wasn't as big of an outrage, mostly because it was something that was already out there, and also like as much as we don't want to admit, there is a difference in the culture today versus the culture before. You see what I'm saying? Exactly. Well, like what the situation is that people out there were privy to this information, and ultimately this, made Disney know, okay, so what we got to do right now is get this guy to issue an apology before we even hire this dude, right? He issued the apology. Everything about him moving forward was representative of an improvement. Somebody that wasn't that person that wrote those things.
That is why they hired him back, because of his response to the situation.
No, this is what he did before they hired him in the beginning, nigga. Like, what's wrong with you?
No, I'm saying no. He did the same shit twice. He issued an apology.
He apologized 5 years ago.
No, he did it after. He did it the same thing. He did the same thing when they resurfaced. He did the same shit.
Yes, he did. And you know what happened? They still fired him the next day. Like, what happened?
Look, I'm telling you that there would I'm telling you that in the article I read, they were talking about how he was still in talks with Alan Horn.
Man, listen. This man literally took a job at
Chairman
Warner
of
Brothers.
Disney. He was still in talks with that motherfucker.
This man took a job at Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
He has a job.
Yeah, because he wasn't slated to direct Guardians anymore. I'm saying they never stopped dialogue.
Why would he be in talks if they fired him?
Yeah, they never stopped dialogue, is what I'm telling you, dog.
But he was fired. That's the thing we agree on. There was a middleman. There was somebody trying to get him back.
In the public vision, James Gunn was fired. We don't know what kind of behind the doors, closed doors meetings they was having with James Gunn. We don't know.
Anyway, can we talk about something a little less? Let's talk about the fact that this man is directing both a DC movie and a Marvel movie. What do you think about that?
Let's talk about how you niggas was dick riding the fuck out of James Gunn as the pinnacle. Being the pinnacle of directing.
Go watch Guardian. Yo, I'm gonna say this right now. First of all, nobody said he was the pinnacle. Nobody said he was the pinnacle of directing, but I will say he did direct.
Was sucking the shit out his dick, man.
He directed one of the best sci-fi movies of the modern time. Who here does not think Guardians of the Galaxy is a dope ass movie?
Disney can't live without him. Like, I mean, they fired his ass. We said, nigga, stop. This is what happens. You know what happens? When somebody has a ridiculous argument, they try and make your point look ridiculous to make theirs look like it has more legitimacy. This is what's happening right now. Bush said hold on. Bush is trying to act like we talked about how he's the best director ever. First of all, nobody said that. But what you said was, hold on. No, let me finish. Okay, go ahead. Let me finish, nigga. What you said was that you said that Disney does not need this nigga. He does not need. Those are your words. But we didn't say he was the best director of all time. You were the one that went to the extreme. We weren't the ones that went to the extreme. I mean, to go against what I said, y'all kept saying how great he was as a director. I'm saying that still doesn't prove that they needed that nigga. Honestly,
no, but that's not the point. Hold up for a second. First of all, regardless of how good of a director he is, that wasn't even our point that we were making. We were saying he was built into the fiber of what that movie is, and ultimately it would feel like a fabrication of what this franchise has been up until this point, without the nigga that's made it what it is today. Like, what's not to understand? Like, what's that?
Look, man, there's several cases of movies.
It's like somebody coming to you and saying, "Oh yeah, Steve Jobs dying means Apple is slightly different of a company now." This is like this. People will treat it differently because this man that's been pushing these products for however many years from the beginning, right, is not a part of it.
And I kept telling you niggas that a lot of people don't really fuck with the Guardians like that. And the last movie, people really didn't fuck with how that shit ended. And also the first movie didn't even have a great villain, and people didn't fuck with that. So, I mean, you saying that he's woven into the fabric of the creation of Guardians, people don't see Guardians as a perfect film to begin with, and maybe it stands to do better with a different perspective.
But did you watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
Yeah, I watched all that shit. I didn't fuck with Guardians. That shit was a snooze fest. 2 was.
Nigga Bush trash.
It sounds like you got a bot.
Bush, what happened?
No, you talking about us?
Fuck you mean? What happened? I'm not telling you what happened in the fucking movie. This is a dumb nigga argument. What happened in the movie? But you seen it. You saw what happened. I don't have to tell you what happened to a film. Stop insulting my intelligence, nigga. Come up with a real point.
Let's talk about it. Since Bush is so salty that we're talking about how good of a director that James Gunn is, I'm gonna throw a little bit more praise at James Gunn real quick. Are we gonna ignore that this nigga made an Avengers team in one fucking movie? We gonna ignore that shit right now? This nigga got all these different characters from all sides of the galaxy, brought them in one fucking movie, and made you feel like you seen them. They care about every single one of them. We cared about the fucking tree, nigga. I cared about a tree. Like, what's wrong with you? But
look, lie. What the fuck? I cared about it. That's your big argument. We cared about a tree. Oh, man.
I am Groot. We are all Groot, Bush. You're Groot too, nigga.
One would say that the Russo brothers did a better job at that when they made the Avengers. Like, I mean,
no. Hold on. I'll say this. I'll be fair. I think they completed the arc of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. That's what they did. They completed the story. But no, I feel like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 has its problems, but ultimately that movie was what it was because of him.
Would you still feel it was a loss if they got the Russos to do Guardians 3?
Yes, I would say it's a loss.
You crazy. What? What?
The vision of the nigga who
it don't need the fucking vision. It just has to be better.
Bruh. That's why some people even say to this day that the Star Wars new franchise isn't the same without George Lucas.
George Lucas is trash. If you watch the original films, them films weren't even that great. They were okay. Like, stop. Are you okay, nigga? Check your head. Rewatch them films. If those films were so perfect, why the fuck he kept re-editing them bitches?
Hold on. That's a terrible argument. I'm gonna tell you what. That's a terrible. That's a terrible argument because him editing those movies made them worse. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
like, the movies were bad before
he didn't think that the shit was good. He didn't even think the shit was that good.
But everybody disagreed. Everybody universally disagreed that his edits made the movie, like, you know what I'm saying, were bad. Like, it made it worse. Like,
and niggas trying to compare the new shit to the old. He make the prequels.
Yes,
that was his vision too, right? That shit was ass cheeks.
Hold on.
You wanted that nigga that made the prequels to continue the universe?
Not ass.
Why are we talking about George Lucas? James Gunn shits on George Lucas, nigga. I don't care. What is everyone talking about?
Yeah, he do. I agree. I agree. That nigga made Red Tails, Marcel.
Damn.
Hey.
You also, I think here's the thing. Here's a consensus with George Lucas. George Lucas is a good idea man. He's good at coming up with ideas.
Yeah, he had the vision. Yeah.
But he's not a very talented writer or director. That's pretty much the idea. He also came up with the idea for Indiana Jones, and he got Steven Spielberg to direct it. So that's another thing.
I mean, anyway.
Okay.
But,
so what I'm saying is George got a lot of money, and now James. And let's talk about other people that have a lot of money. James Gunn has a lot of money. That's the only thing that came out of this. What came out of it was they had to pay this man out of his contract to get him away from Guardians to begin with. And when they had to renegotiate the contract to get him back on this movie, they probably had to pay him more. They gave him more money. That's all it was. And he's getting DC money. They gave him a DC job. He has more money now. That's all. That's the only thing that changed. The nigga rich. What happened?
I think, I mean, you're right in that they hired him back because whatever the fuck, the fabric of his life juices are woven into the film.
Yes, nigga. He is Guardians of the Gate. We are group, bro. We are all group.
And they felt like it'll have been less effort to just go ahead and give him the money back, give him the money and put him back on. It'd have been less hard to find somebody completely different. And I mean, yeah, I agree with that.
Right.
I'm just telling you
it would have been so much. You know what would have been easier? Hold on. It would have been easier to just cancel the fucking movie. It would have been just easier to hire some schlocky director that's like, my last movies were failures. I need money. And the Marvel hires him to finish this fucking shit that already has a script, right? It would have been so easy to do that. But instead, they're like, no, we need this nigga. That's what happened.